tension between President Trump and a major U.S. ally. Sources say the president grew angry during a phone call with Australia's Prime Minister last Saturday. President Trump calling the Australian refugee agreement a very bad deal.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
Well, with a policy like that on leaks, I guess you can't be too mad that that some transcripts from your phone calls got leaked this week.
No, I guess you can't. I'm not upset about it either, though, to be honest.
No, well, I think this will be the presidency of leaks.
Well, we'll see about that.
When you tell,
so there was 2 prominent leaks, though, right?
2 prominent leaks. The ones that I guess Trump had 4 phone calls this week,
as you do when you're president,
which was in the news, with 4 different foreign leaders. I'm sure he had more phone calls than that, but he probably talked to Ivanka in Manhattan or something. Not Ivanka, Melania.
About to say,
right?
I think she's up.
I don't know. I think
in
she's
DC.
at like Neiman Marcus trying to get her clothes back in there or something. But no, so he had 4 phone calls, I guess, with the leaders of Russia, of course.
Which we knew was coming from the week before.
And
Australia,
and
then Mexico, of course.
And I believe Iran, too.
Well, they did the sanctions on Iran.
Well, they did the sanctions on Iran. So I guess we can start there with Iran.
Okay.
It's weird.
Who didn't see this coming?
No,
That's my point going right into it.
Yeah, no, I think that...
When have we ever had a good relationship with Iran? And I mean, Jimmy Carter, good job. You tried.
Right. I mean, there can be there's something to be said about whether his attempts at mending a relationship are more political or more like... I don't know that they could actually happen. I don't know that Iran has any reason to actually want to do anything.
They don't like us, and especially right now, with them being such close partners with Russia.
Yeah.
I mean, in that region.
That's
why we're upset, is that they're trying to claim a lot of Iraq.
Here's what I'll say.
We gave it away.
I'm not like a huge supporter of the Iranian government.
I'm not at all
by any means.
a supporter of the Iranian government.
Here's what I would say, though. I think that what scares people about Donald Trump sending people out to the news to put countries on notice, whatever that means.
Yeah, that was a little unclear.
It felt like he just pulled that off the
dude,
Colbert Report.
We're watching you, bud.
Yeah,
like real?
Bears, you're on notice, Iran.
You too.
Right. So I think what makes people nervous is how I don't personally believe. I know that Donald Trump has smart people around him, but I don't think Donald Trump he's a businessman and he's a reality TV star. I don't think this guy probably thought too much about U.S.-Iran relations prior to...
Well, Iran's been in the news for quite some time. I mean, even going back, they're no friend of ours. I mean, that's the thing I don't understand. I didn't understand this past nuclear deal that we did with that Obama did and Kerry, the Secretary of State. I didn't understand. Like, I understand what they were trying to do is be diplomatic, but as Obama consistently did, he underplayed America's hand. It's like, oh, yay, we made progress. We have a treaty with someone. We have, these things in place. They're not people that like us, and they're not deals that are in our favor.
I don't disagree
Why are we
with
doing
that.
it?
He also underplayed his hand with Russia and easing up sanctions on them without getting anything in return, which looks like Obama, which looks like Donald Trump's next step.
Yeah.
Like,
well, remember, Obama had just wait a little bit till after the election. I'll have more leeway.
Yeah,
and then guess what they did? Crimea and everything else, because he basically was told by the United States president, "You're cool, dude."
Republicans were really upset about that, and were citing that up until a few months ago.
To be fair,
and
Republicans
now
are still upset. They still don't like Russia. It's Trump that likes Russia. Republicans don't like that guy,
and they shouldn't.
I understand why they would.
And when Bill O'Reilly asks Donald Trump how he feels about Vladimir Putin and then says he's a killer, and the response to that is, well, we have killers, you think we're innocent? Like, dude, what are you doing?
It doesn't sound nice. He's right. I'm sure we do. We tried to take out Castro
but do you want the president of the United States on record telling that to the world? Probably not.
Probably not. He wasn't president yet, but
yes, he wasn't.
I think that was during the.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, I know it's in the news again.
I'm sure his position hasn't changed. And he is president now.
Right. So
I understand why we would want Russia to be an ally, not only to defeat ISIS in the Middle East, but also to avoid what I assume is a war.
But
that
you
was
see that it's not unlikely at all that sanctions or something will be lifted to benefit Russia before we get anything out of the deal.
I would hope not. Like I said, I want to see what my trade-off would be. The U.S. Army and the Russian Army join forces in taking out ISIS in the Middle East. That is worth it to me to release sanctions off of Russia. That makes sense to me. That's a good trade-off.
To me,
I would want that to happen.
Here's what
I'll be mad, dude.
I think sanctions will get probably lifted.
At some point they will. I think
they will
before
we get before we benefit from it, because you got to pay them back for the election. So I don't know. I just
Did Julian Assange get something out of it too?
The way that
what about the Clinton camp? Did they get something out of it for fucking up?
Has Julian Assange said anything since he was going to turn himself in for extradition?
No, because he got called out. Yeah, don't say that shit, dude.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just think that what makes people nervous is how quickly and how loudly he's going about things. Like, if you have a bad conversation with the Australian Prime Minister, you probably don't need to like come out and say it in the media.
I mean, it was leaked out. They basically were like, "Oh, it was horrible. He hung up on him," and I think he did. And I'm gonna go on record here. I think he was right for it. I mean, you probably know a little bit more about Australia than I do and their economic benefit. But regardless, I think that was a bad deal that Obama signed.
I don't think it was a good deal. I think it was a deal that he did to purposely mess with how Trump was going to handle it. I'm pretty sure that was signed like
there was a few things that Obama did right before leaving.
Yeah, it was like the last week of his
move.
presidency. So
I really didn't like him at that point. I do like him now. I like Mr. Obama, the man. I like him a lot. I didn't like him as president almost at all. But I think that
but we do need to be careful when we and I get that Trump tried to play damage control a little bit, came out and said that, we have a great relationship.
It's a wonderful relationship.
About it.
Don't even worry.
Talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Still, basically what Australia does, they have refugees that they would not admit into their own country and kept them off onto special bases or camps in the islands surrounding Australia.
Call that extreme vetting.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's terrible when we do it, isn't it? So basically they said, we don't want these guys. As an agreement, you need to take them. And Obama said, yes, we will. And I disagree with it. I don't see why we should. They're on Australian soil. Take them in.
But you acknowledge the fact that we should try to maintain our relationships around the world. The countries that we do have good relationships with, we should probably, as long as...
There's nothing wrong with calling out a friend. Me and you do it consistently.
Right, but as long as they're mutually beneficial, like we shouldn't be callous in the way that we talk. We should be a little bit more tough. Measured.
You got to be tough. And I think that Trump did the right thing. He got called out for, and all that the report says is that he had the audacity to hang up on someone else that he was upset with.
No,
we all do that.
No, it didn't. The report also said that Donald Trump called the refugees the next generation of Boston bombers.
Oh yeah. I don't agree with that. I don't think there's any evidence for it. I can see that you could ambiguously assign them their future. It doesn't make any sense. However, I understand that he's coming out from a national security standpoint, where he's saying we need to make sure that these people are vetted and whatnot. I would hope they'd be being vetted as they were on the island by the Australians. That's what I would hope would be happening, but I have no idea if it is or if it isn't.
Well, if they have a vetting process like our 3-year process, then they should be good on terrorism. So I do think, though, that we should remember that, like, certain allies we have are beneficial to us. We have billions of dollars in investment and trade with Australia on an annual basis. Australia has backed us in
military
operations, every military,
and that's why they are a good ally. And I think that's why you're seeing Trump,
including Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan,
and D-Day.
Right.
And they had one troop.
Tons of cultural ties between the two countries.
And that, to me, that's the only thing that matters, because so many of our allies they break the rules, and they don't allot as much money of their GDP into their military at all. And these are guys that are supposed to come to our aid should anything arise. Mm-hmm. And it's like us in Australia, and no one else has been building up their military. But guess who has? Russia, China, Bashar al-Assad in
And-
Syria because of the Russians now,
Right.
and they have a ton of our
So
stuff.
I don't think it's. So I think that Donald Trump and the administration should just be careful when. Now I get that it was a leak, and I think that when you're a guy who was all about leaks, it's really hard for you to be like, "How dare you?" And I think they're going to be the administration of leaks, because when you tell other government departments, "Don't tweet unless it comes through me,"
Yeah.
that is fascistic. Like, I'm sorry,
It is,
but
it is.
it
And
is.
that needs to be tempered as well. So I think that we're going to deal with a lot of leaks, and as I said previously, totally fine with it. As long as it doesn't cross the line. Like, it's
We
not
have-
nude pictures of fucking Melania leaks out or something
Right.
like that. Like, don't cross the line.
We have, but
Attack
we
that
also
government,
we
that's
also
fine.
have. I don't know that it's necessarily a treaty. It's an agreement. The Five Eyes intelligence agreement, and it's between Australia, the United States, the UK, Canada, and somebody else. One more. It's 5 countries, and basically it's an agreement to not spy on each other, and it's also an agreement
I'm sure
to
nobody keeps that agreement.
Right, but it's an agreement to freely share like intelligence information with each other, so that we're all on the same page, and we all. So I think though that if you hurt your relationship with countries that can be valuable to you in those types of ways, that's not good, because if you don't want to go too far to where you get Australia going, well, we'll just exclude the United States from this. That doesn't help us. That
Here's
doesn't
what I'll
help
say
anybody.
to that point. If you saw any footage of the Australian Prime Minister, he won. He knew he won. He was laughing. I don't think this hurt our relationship one bit. People love it when they're winning.
It helped him because Donald Trump fumbled the ball. Like,
and like I said, the military aspect, one of the only allies that is actually pulling their weight and is willing to come to our aid when we need it. So he's going to have to honor this, even though it goes against every single thing that Trump wants to do with accepting these refugees. He has to.
And
do
watch
it.
the Democrats use that in the next election.
Oh yeah,
because they will. Like, that's politics. That's what's going to happen. So I don't know if it'll be a successful play, but expect them to use it. And so that was one phone call. Another one he had was about bad hombres in Mexico.
There's a very bad hombre.
dude,
I'm a bad hombre, bro. I told you we're out there.
Just stop, man. Like, stop talking. Be more of a politician,
Hey, man.
Donald Trump. Like,
Hashtag bad hombres is the best thing that ever happened to me. I use it constantly.
I think it again. I made this point quickly last week, but Mexican elections are coming up next year. President Nieto has a 12% approval rating right now.
Not very good, man.
If you want the Sandinistas and the PDR to win that election and you're not getting any cooperation on the drug war. You're not getting any cooperation on.
And that's what I think that Mexico just missed out on. And like I said, what came out of those leaks, which was interesting, is President Trump basically said, hey, if you help pay for the wall, we will help you out with our American forces. We'll come in and we'll fight the cartels for you.
Yeah, and let's make a correction to the media for the media, because I've seen that story. This might be the alternative fact of the week. I've seen that headline so many times on so many sites, but the way that headline is written, and if you don't click on it, you won't find out what Mitch just said. The way that headline is written is Trump vows to send military into Mexico.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Come on, man.
Dude.
That's a dirty play.
Way to go, guys.
Right. And that's the problem. And if, I've heard CNN make the comment this week that, like, look, they brought in all these conservative talk guys to ask softball questions, and they have. But if you don't want that to happen, then those liberal like self-starter blog sites, whatever, don't print stuff with false narratives that's the reason that fake news became a term, because you're only hurting yourselves. You want to keep not getting invited into that room, keep writing stupid headlines that
says we're about to send our military into Mexico, we're gonna take them out.
So now that everybody that reads that is like, he did what? They're not gonna build a wall, we're sending the freaking military in. That's
now I don't
ridiculous.
think that's gonna help Peña Nieto at all. I think that his approval rating is already so low, and now that it's leaked, I understand that they don't want to pay for the wall, and that's a big. It's almost like Donald Trump putting his stance: we will make them pay for the wall. He can't back down off it. And Peña Nieto's the same way, where he can't back off that he's not paying for it.
Right.
But at some point, like
He's not
the
gonna
cartels
pay
have
for it.
definitely been a problem.
Right, but he's not going to pay for it because we know. We
If
know
you could meet
how-
it halfway and go with like a 10% tax, I
Right.
could see some good coming
But
from
they
it.
need to actually compromise. Like, and
They do. I think
big-
sending their military in to take out the cartels is a very good compromise. I think that really helps out the not only Mexico but Central America.
Well, it depends though, because if those voters
We have to
are
make good on it, too, though.
Well, and if those
So-
voters are under the impression that like America is just going to dog Mexico at every
Yeah.
press release, then they're more likely to not care what deal Nieto can strike up with Donald Trump, and
This is really the only place.
then they'll put in the PDR. They will elect the PDR next year,
Right.
and
Well, I think they won't vote for Nieto because he did that. I think that they'll say you had a chance to help solve some of our problems, and if you won't, we're just going to side with them.
but the PDR, I'm not sure the PDR has a great position on stopping the cartels either. So
I'm sure
like
no one
I
does.
don't
The cartels are
think-
there to stay,
and
like-
it will definitely hurt the United States goals if Nieto does lose re-election.
it depends on how much we isolate ourselves from Mexico.
so-
It might not have anything to do with us at that point, but we'd have to really cut off ties. And I don't know if that's something I would want.
I don't know if it's something that we could get anyway because
Yeah.
we're so. I mean,
We're economically
people are still
involved.
jumping that wall whether we're cut off or not. Like, so you're never gonna stop illegal immigration completely. You can cut it down.
It's
a lot,
already been
but
cut down a lot,
and
so.
it has. It's not. It's so it's unfortunate that people like you and me have to sit here and talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it's not a huge problem. It's rhetoric, and it
It
makes
is, but it's so ingrained at this point that there's a vast group of people who want to see it happen. And so at some point you have to bring into the account of the morale of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes us feel safe that we have the wall. So I don't actually like the wall. I don't think it's going to serve any purpose other than perhaps make these people happy.
Yeah.
I mean, the final, what percentage people are they? And
It's ridiculous though, because it will be an expensive wall.
it
And
will somehow is going to have to get paid for. No, it's not in the terms of the federal budget. It's a drop in the bucket. It's not that much compared to what we're spending. I don't know where we're at now. I think 800 billion or something. We're not
Yeah.
at trillions anymore like we were for a while. But yeah, it's like what, 10, 20 billion they're
Yeah.
thinking. So it's a
Something like
drop,
that.
but it all adds up.
Yeah. So I don't know so those are the phone calls, I guess, for the week. We'll see what happens. I just think that the United States government, the White House especially, should be very strategic with how they say things. I know that you're not going to stop leaks from happening probably, and you can't control the information that gets out in those leaks, but don't give people a reason to leak your stuff.
Well, they're going to. Liberals in every single bit of the government are going to do everything they can to demoralize the administration or to expose the administration.
Make him a one-term president.
Make him a one-term president. Where have we seen that before?
Yeah, I wonder where that plays.
I think my
out
shitty
then.
side did that for about
For about 8 years.
I mean, they made him a one-term president for 8 years. They did a great job.
Right. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But and then the other thing on foreign policy, I guess we'll just touch on real quick, that also happened this week, which was here's one thing, and it's a small thing, and I know it's just rhetoric anyway, but I will give the Trump administration credit a little bit because and we'll get into this at another time because for me especially it's too much of a topic, but I'm very much, I understand the reason for Israel and our alliance with them, but I'm
So do I.
very much on the side of the Palestinian people in that conflict.
I'm more on the side of the Israelis.
So
Grudgingly.
what was interesting to me and what I noticed as soon as the election happened in the United States is that Netanyahu wasted no time starting to build settlements in the West Bank. Because
I think he thought that he could take advantage of Trump. And I'm
think-
glad that he said,
so,
I'm not comfortable
so this
with
week,
this.
to my pleasure, even though it's probably mostly rhetoric, is that the White House did come out and make a statement, and they didn't totally crap on Israel, but they said that obviously the main objective in that region is to establish peace. And I don't know that the building of new settlements is the best way to obtain that goal.
It is not the best way to obtain that.
It is not the best way to obtain that goal.
It is not the best way.
So it's nice to see, though, that whereas somebody like me who is very passionate about that expected Donald Trump to just allow Israel to do what they were going to do. So it's nice to see a little bit of pushback, at least in the form of a White House statement.
I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about for this administration is how they're going to handle this. And only because I've seen the statements from Donald Trump and from Jared Kushner and the people that are inside where they actually think they can solve this. And I think we both would agree that that would be absolutely incredible if they could actually solve it.
I would.
That's a tall order.
It is an unbelievably huge order.
But I think
first of all, every presidency since forever has had that same goal in mind, and none of them have achieved it. And I bet you the people in that region probably have that goal in mind, and they haven't achieved it for a bajillion years.
I think that Israel would rather just crush Palestine, and I think Palestine would rather just not have ever had to deal with Israel.
But you have to admit that not all of those people feel that way. Like, there are people that
most of them just want there to be peace. At some
point, the Middle East, if the world doesn't implode first, will start to civilize. Like, you can to civilize in the way that the West has, to where I feel like, because I know it, because I see these freedom fighters in Israel and Palestine who on both sides, there are Israelis and Palestinians who don't have a problem with their neighbor. They don't have a problem with those guys being there. Yeah. And there's one famous, I'll see if I can find it, put it in the comments. There's one famous thought project that I don't know if it was a Palestinian or Israeli did, but they went onto the other side and they posted pictures of 5-6 faces. 3 of them were Israelis, 3 of them were Palestinians. None of them were labeled. No one knew who was who. They don't have to hate each other, and there are people in the region that don't want to. That is a very, very volatile and vulnerable region of the world. Right. There's a lot of things.
So I like a president approaching it with a simple naivety of being able to say, I can fix this.
Right.
We'll see. I don't think he can, but I'm excited that he's excited about thinking he can, and let's see what he can actually accomplish.
I'm not gonna hold him to it because I think there are better. I think
that's fair.
I think Donald Trump is probably not the best person to be the one to do it.
That's why he's sitting in Jared Kushner, who's got a high-ranking position, and he's Jewish. He's the one who converted Ivanka into Judaism, obviously being her husband. Mm-hmm. So he thinks that he can do it, and that's apparently where this is coming from, and why Trump apparently really wanted to do it, but he didn't know if he had the means. That Jared Kushner is the one who's very confident that he can do it.
Still don't have faith in him. So I don't have faith in him because I don't think it's an achievable goal. Yeah. Not right now in 2017.
Just hang out in Camp David for like 3 weeks. It'll be totally cool. Everything will work out.
It wasn't a bad attempt.
No, it wasn't.
By Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, it was good.
And it actually did do something. I mean, was that Iran and Egypt?
I thought so. Yeah.
Or yeah. So that was that. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see what happens. As far
keep on the leaks. I'd say keep it coming. As long I'll take as much information as I can.
Just be nicer in your phone calls. Maybe don't hang up on people. That's
I think once Trump gets past, he's got these things that he's going to be tough on different nations for the beginning. I think once we settle these, we squash our beef with all these different countries.
A lot of it seems so petty.
It doesn't to me. To me, it's something where I'm like, this is something that this country's been taking over us for the past 8 years or so, and the ship needs to be righted. And you need to tap your friend on the shoulder and be like, hey, dude,
it looks like a guy who has scientifically sized hands equivalent to a woman, and he feels like he has to compensate at every step of the way.
He loves his hands. These are terrific hands. Look at my hands.
They're so big, and so is everything else.
That's what he was saying. So.
It's all proportional.